Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Misha.
Welcome to another episode of the North Atlanta Real Estate Podcast with your amazing hosts, Misha Rawal
And Jeff Ahi.
And I think we're inching close to the 30 episode mark, and we've informed our viewers about everything related to the micro markets that we're in, about how to make smart decisions when they're buying houses, home inspections, etc.
It's getting hard to go out in public. I mean, we just...
And we love helping. We love helping our listeners make smart choices, and today's going to be no exception. We're talking about three big topics that our listeners have talked to us about, and that is home warranties, title insurance, and whether it is prudent to get a survey when buying a house.
Yeah, these are the kind of questions that come up. Oftentimes, most of these come up after you've already made the contract to purchase the home, unless maybe you put the home warranty in the offer. They come up after the fact. It's like, hey, should I do these things? And they're all optional. So yeah, why don't we have a chat about these?
So should we delve into home warranties to
Sure.
begin with? Yeah.
Yeah. I think we might even have different opinions on some of these things because we haven't talked through this episode. So we might even have different opinions on some of these things. And we're just going to give some viewpoints and people can figure out what they want to do.
And I have a home warranty on my house. Do you?
I do not.
Okay, so there we go. And I've always had a home warranty because my house was built in 1992. So every part of my house either creaks or is about to break or has broken. And I love where I live. And you bought a new construction.
I did, but that's not the reason I have a home warranty. I had a much older home before, built in 1988, never had a home warranty on that. I'm going to talk you out of this home warranty that you got. My goal is now to have you cancel this by next year.
Well, my sump pump just broke.
Yep.
And the basement got flooded. And
Wow.
it was not a pretty side. The sad part was 2 months ago, it had given me some issues. And I called up the home warranty. I have choice.
Okay.
And every time they come in, they charge $75 for every visit, whether they touch the item that needs to be fixed or they fix it. It's $75 flat.
Okay.
And we paid $1,300 for 3 years, which I thought was a great deal.
That
Because
is a pretty low amount, I have to admit, for 3 years.
Because Old Republic, I think, is $675 these days, and the other one is American Home Shield, and then you have the 210 home warranty. So we were like, okay, we'll just go with choice because it was referred. And 2 months ago, my sump pump started making noise, and I called them. They sent an 18-year-old boy who said, well, I hear a noise, I think it's working, took the $75 and left.
Okay.
And 5 days ago, went to the basement. It had like a half an inch of water. It was horrible. I did not have time to call the home warranty company to ask them to come because it was Friday and they would only probably send someone on Monday. So I had to pay out of pocket to get the sump pump replaced. It was worth every dollar that I paid. But I was like, I wish my home warranty had sent a smarter, more able technician the first place who knew what he was doing.
Yeah, sure.
So I agree with you when you say you could talk me out of it, but I have also had a fantastic experience with them.
I mean, I think you can do it on a case-by-case. Basically, what these programs are, they are like, I don't know, $700 average per year or something like it, right? $700, $800. That depends which ones they are, what they cover, what the deductible is, etc. But it's like any type of insurance that if something breaks, then you're happy that you have coverage, right? But if nothing happens, you've just sort of thrown that money away. It's the way I look at it is, let's say you pay your $700. A lot of these things have a $100 deductible. So you're $800 into anything in your first year that they come out to do. And of course, these guys are incentivized to repair things rather than replace. So let's say your air conditioner breaks down and you had a 25-year-old air conditioner and the capacitor went out on it. They're not just going to give you a brand new air conditioning system unless it's just impossible to fix. And so what you have to keep in mind is that they will keep things running. Sometimes they do have to replace, no question about it. Your microwave goes out. Sometimes it's easier just to put a $300 microwave in rather than trying to replace the computer board in there that would also be $300, right? So you just change it out. But that's the way I look at it is a lot of these things that they cover are less than the $800 you have in for 1 year. And so you can look at your house, if your systems for your HVAC systems are say 6 or 7 years or less, then that's a large part of what can happen. Maybe a water heater, if your water heater is less than 7 or 8 years old, typically it's not going to break in the next year. So then I start looking at, they cover plumbing, but what really happens to plumbing? Not that much. They cover electrical, but what really happens to your electrical? Not that much. Appliances they cover. You can have appliances go out. So anyway, that's kind of I I just don't like them.
Well, but I will say,
So,
in my defense
yeah.
of getting a home warranty, is that I did not know about GFCI versus regular plug points. I don't know how the garage door motor works and what to do. I don't know how my electrical panel. So stressed out if something like my garage door, machine broke, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. You know how things work. I do not. So for me, it's like easier to file a claim. And then have someone come in, because I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I find an electrician? Even though I'm in real estate and I have a list of contractors,
sure.
Sometimes the contractors are working on other projects and they don't have time to immediately come over. So what it does is it gives me peace of mind knowing that if something happens, it's $75, I file a claim, there will be somebody in the next, if not the next day, at least in the next 3-4 days. And if that thing can wait, it's not an emergency, I'm happy waiting.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Look, I've had clients that are definitely happy that they've had a home warranty in place when something has happened.
Yes.
So,
and you're very handy around the house.
Yeah, well, I can be, right? My wife might disagree that I don't do things quick enough sometimes, but yes, I guess I can take care of a lot of things. Yeah, so you can get a fix a GFCI outlet. When one goes out, you can just run down to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick one up for under $25 and fix it in 5 minutes yourself.
Right, and
so
I'd
there's
be like,
certain things you can do pretty easily.
Agreed. And if I go to Home Depot, I'm like, where am I going? I'll be asking like 3 people along the way, and I wouldn't know, and I'll probably come back with the wrong thing. So I'm like happy paying for the home warranty.
So maybe we can just leave it at people should do their own research. It's good for certain people, maybe gives them peace of mind. And maybe for others who are handy or can take care of things and aren't afraid of things going wrong with the house, maybe they just don't get that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's dive into the second topic, which is title insurance. And that is, again, something that we've had buyers at the closing table sit, across from the closing attorney, sit across from the seller and ask like, what is title insurance? Do I have to pay for it? And suddenly everything goes silent because then the attorney has to explain to them what title insurance is.
Yeah, so I just had this come up. My brother purchased a home, closed a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And yeah. So it was very exciting to get them into a house, he and his girlfriend, long-term girlfriend. And so they were sitting there and the question came up. It was title insurance. And I'd already talked about with my brother, and they paid cash for the house. And so we should say sort of what is title insurance? When you're purchasing a home and you're financing it, with a lot of people do, right? The lender always requires title insurance. And so what the title insurance does is it protects the lender, in the case of the lender's policy, or the owner, if they've purchased it, for defects against the title. Maybe somebody did some fraud, or there was just a mistake made and there's some kind of defect on the title that the attorney didn't pick up when they did the title search before purchase. And so the insurance protects against border disputes, like maybe somebody's property line, they put a fence over the property line, it wasn't picked up at the time because you didn't get a survey, which we'll talk about next. So it's things like that it does protect you for. And I would say, at least in my experience, every single closing attorney will recommend it. But of course, it's because they're not paying for it. And of course, they get a little bit of an override and a cut out of that fee for it. So they are always going to say buy it. And so in this case, my brother, he had done some research, went on ChatGPT, did all this research, and and it showed how infrequently these things came up. And then when it comes up, it's not like you lose your whole property. It's going to pay court costs to defend, and it does pay for claims if they come up. So in any case, he decided that, hey, look, I'm not going to pay $5,000, because it's a typical fee is $5 per thousand that they're covering in a cash sale anyway. It's a little lower when you're a simultaneous issue with lender coverage. But yeah, he decided, you know what? I'm just going to save that $5,000. If something comes up, I at least got $5,000 towards fixing it. It's unlikely that anything does. And so he took a gamble. So I don't know. What about yourselves when you bought?
Very cool. So when you go into a closing attorney's office and it's swanky, know, part of the title insurance money is going to keep the lights on.
Pays for the candy.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and there are 2 types of title insurance you could get. You have the basic and you have the enhanced. Yeah. And then for, like you mentioned, if it's a financed property, it's broken up into 2 parts. And if it's a cash sale like your brother did, he's not forced to take title insurance because he's the sole owner of the property. But with a finance property, you have to take.
Well, you have to have the lender coverage, but you don't have to get the owner portion of the coverage. So you can still deny the portion that is the owner's coverage. And it is not $5 per thousand. It's usually like, I think, $3 per thousand covered. So let's say you had a $600,000 loan and the policy might be $1,800 for yourself. And the lender's portion you don't have a choice with, that's part of the closing costs. And so when I purchased my new home that you had referenced earlier, I didn't get title insurance because when I purchased, the builder has been in business for 20 years, Peachtree Residential. So I thought, all right, they're probably going to pay their bills. They're not going to have a mechanics lien. They were going to be building in the neighborhood for the next 2 years. So if they didn't pay their contractor, I would know about it and I'd make sure they paid them. So I was like, okay, that's a low probability. And it was raw land before. And so now, and it was purchased in 2014, the land. And this was 5 years later that we bought. So I was like, very low probability. And wow, when I tell you this, it's kind of funny. When I went in and told the attorney, he's like, nah, I'm not going to buy title insurance. First, the attorney tried to convince me. Then a loan process or the closer came in that worked on the file. They came in, tried to convince me to do it. And finally, kid you not, the secretary came in the front. They were all trying to get me to buy this because they wanted the money, I guess. But in this case, I elected not to get it. So I'm not saying do that because it can be reckless. I think you need to, to really study this and make the decision for yourself. Not saying that it's a good idea for most people to avoid that. It's probably a smart idea in most cases to get it.
Mm-hmm. And it's a one-time fee at closing. Right. It's not an annual thing. So once you're done, it's like fill it, shut it, forget it. And then until you buy your next property, you never have to pay for another title insurance.
And it does. I did have a situation where I did buy title insurance in a house I sold back in 2005. I think I sold it in 2008, right before the downturn, thankfully. And it was a situation where actually the title insurance helped. It wouldn't have cost me anything, but it helped get me to closing right away because the previous mortgage hadn't been shown that it was paid off and it was still open from a few years earlier when I bought the house. Yeah. And so it can help. There's no question.
And it's the buyer who pays for title insurance. It's never the seller who pays for your title insurance, even though it's the seller who's probably lived in the house for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. When they transfer title to you, it's the onus of the buyer to get title insurance. Yeah. And then, so let's jump on to the next topic that we have for our listeners. That is about property surveys. And this one comes up fairly often.
It does.
Especially when you have horse ranches and large tracts of land that you're buying, and you always want to know where the pins are situated.
Gosh, I'm just sounding like I'm this reckless person, right? So I do think oftentimes you can get by without a property survey, but again, you have to be very selective. And you're exactly correct. I would never buy a piece of property that had most of its value in the land. You have acreage, anything like that, you absolutely have to get a survey. I'd say no question about that because most of the value might be in your land.
Mm-hmm. And in the state of Georgia, the lenders don't require a survey.
Yeah, that's right. It used to be we had to get surveys back, I don't know when I started, so maybe 20 years ago or something. Yeah. Up until like when I started in 88, up to about for the first 15 years or so, you had to get a survey. The lenders required it, but now you don't have to get it. And I do it on a case-by-case basis, but I never really want to advise my client not to get one. But it is about a $500 to $700 charge, depending on how the size of the property.
So this house that I got under contract and we closed about 3 weeks ago, I want to say, 700 Eastbourne, thankfully the sellers had marked yes in property dispute, in the seller's property disclosure.
Okay.
So when I asked the listing agent what it was, she's like, well, let me get back to you. And apparently the fire pit for this house was about 3 feet into the neighbor's house, but it had been there that for like 10 years and no one had said anything. And then we were like, okay, well, let's just find a surveyor to come fix it. And the surveyor, again, gives you two options. You can just put stakes, or you can get a proper survey. Now, the proper survey was about $795, but putting stakes in the ground was about $400 odd. Okay. So we're like, well, let's just go with a cheaper option. Let's see what happens. And then the surveyor is there. He's staking it, and we're like, oh, that's where the fire pit is. And suddenly he's like, well, we have another issue. And looks like the neighbor's fence was 3 feet by 10 feet, maybe 12 feet, into the house that we had under contract.
Wow.
And so we went over to the neighbor's house. We talked to them and they said that they were willing to move it. And they did. But the other option was to put an easement into the contract saying that the neighbors have that piece of property that they have encroached upon, and whenever they sell the house, they will re-fence it. But thankfully, those neighbors were very kind and they did that before closing.
So what happened? So you actually, part of the fire pit of the house that your buyers were purchasing was in somebody else's yard. How was that resolved?
Well, it's still there.
Okay.
But it's like...
So the other neighbor
apart.
didn't care, they were okay?
It's like the nicest neighborhood. This is Nestbury off of Abbotsdale.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. They're like, well, it's here. Whenever you refinish the fire pit, just fix it that time. So my sellers are kind of in the middle of remodeling the bathrooms, and they said that that is next on the to-do list. So they'll probably get it done in the next 2 months.
Okay, so it definitely can help you, and I would say that in my experience that most of the disputes are on property lines. It's like somebody's fence was just a foot over the wrong way or this or that, and so you do have to realize that you can't really tell by looking. Unless you get a survey, you're not really going to know if it's proper or not. And the challenge becomes that if your fence of the property you just bought is on somebody else's land, and then they make a stink about it and say you got to move it, you're going to have to move it, and you're going to have to pay for that. It could cost thousands of dollars to move the fence. And so if you catch with a survey before you close, then you can force the seller of the property to move that fence for you. So yeah, it can definitely make sense. I guess I, again, just use it sort of by common sense, is that if everybody's fences are backing up and everybody sort of has a fence, and you can sort of see from a plot of the neighborhood that it looks to be in roughly the right place, maybe you can forego because you're just going to take a little chance. It's not going to be that big a deal. And if you did have to move it, maybe it costs you $1,000 to move the fence, or maybe it costs $2,000, but you're going to be paying $500 to $700 or $700 for a survey anyway. So it's kind of one of those things like insurance again. But So really, I don't know if we've provided clarity with this episode, have we? We've kind of raised questions.
Well, if you're ever unsure of any of these 3 topics, whether it's home warranty, title insurance, or about surveys, we're always here to help.
Yeah, we'd love to just chat and keep you even more confused about the topic. We can do that.
So until the next episode, stay smart, stay informed, and tune in to the North Atlanta Real Estate Podcast with Misha Rawal
And Joe Clark.